most kids were like, I want to be a UFC fighter or I want to be a rock star, it seems like you were maybe more reasonable and you were kind of like, I want to be involved in that in like an ancillary way, not like I'm not good enough to be the star. Or did you have like dreams to be those things and then
So I sort of like growing up, I had like two real dreams. I either wanted to be a movie director or a movie writer, like make movies, because I would watch behind the scenes Star Wars documentaries. And that, like, those would fascinate me as much as the movies would, like how they made the movies and how they choreographed the lightsaber battles. And that, I was like, that's the coolest stuff in the world. Or I wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Okay,
and
so you did want to be it.
Totally,
Like
I wanted
most
to entertain
kids,
in some way, yeah.
Right.
And I went to pro wrestling school. Like in high school, I went and trained to be a pro wrestler for a summer, and I hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I did that with, I wanted to like cover sports. My ideal dream was to be a Sports Center anchor. Okay. When I was growing up, it was still like hot to be like Craig Kilborn, Keith Olbermann, Dan Patrick, and I wanted to be those guys. And then I did, then just in general, like sports media, and that was the time I covered the Mets for a spring training and ended up hating it. I was like, this is not for me. This is too buttoned up. This is too, like, not the fun side of things. So you go and you try to become a wrestler.
Yeah.
And,
so like,
and what? You just got your ass kicked? You're like, this sucks? Or you didn't like?
So Barstool even came in before I went and trained to be a wrestler. I discovered Barstool when I was 12 years old. I remember still like being in my Aunt Laura's backyard, my cousin Mark coming up to me, and I was always like a little mature for my age.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
And he was like, check this out. I think you would think it's funny. And what I gravitated towards right away was like the bro show stuff.
Okay.
And he was showing me just for like the blogs and like, which back in the day, I feel like the super blog was like the Instagram where people were reading it and like not even knowing like the intricacies of the site.
Yes.
That was just where they went for funny stories, which it still may be for some people.
Right.
But I was like, you guys are being paid to be friends. That's what it looked like to me. I was like, I want to do that. So that's when like I started applying there. But when I was a junior in high school, I was like, man, like this, I was getting so into wrestling, so into indie wrestling. I was starting to see like routes in. I was starting to design t-shirts for wrestlers. I was like, I think I'm serious about this. I think I want to be a wrestler. So I remember like telling my mom, like almost emotionally, like, I'm going to go after this.
Yeah,
like, I know I don't look like it, but I'm going to commit to this and I'm going to get a Bowflex. I'm going to commit. And I started going to the gym.
What did Mama Fox say? Was she just like, okay, honey?
She was so trying to talk me out of it. Her and my brother, who's a massive wrestling fan, was like, do not do that.
Right.
I remember my brother telling me, like, bro, he's a drummer. So he's like, I get to go up and have like 2 hours of glory on stage every night, and it's amazing. He's like, everything after that kind of stinks. He's like, you know, you don't get any reward after that. He's like, you would get 10 minutes of beating yourself up a night, and then everything after that stinks.
Right.
So they were trying to talk me out of it. I was like, just let me go to wrestling school. They were like, fuck it, we'll let you try. So that was the beginning of my junior year, and I started going to the gym every day with my now brother-in-law.
16, 17?
Yeah. And that's when I started doing the GOMAD, the gallon of milk a day. And I went from
I
went from like 126 pounds to like almost 160. And the weight was like
shit.
But I didn't look like ripped. Like
no.
I looked big enough where people in gym, I remember changing in gym and kids noticing, and I remember that made me feel so good. I was like, oh shit.
Were you working out at the same
every
time?
Day. Yeah, like
so it was muscle, it wasn't just like fat.
Totally, yeah. I was going to the gym every day. And then that summer, I went to wrestling school, and I started training, started taking bumps, started taking suplexes, started learning arm drags, like running the ropes, getting bruised up.
Shit, I didn't know this.
Yeah. And
so you flying off the top ropes?
Not really. Didn't get that far.
Yeah.
And I just hated it. Every step of the way, I was like, everything I thought I would love about it, I didn't like. I didn't like learning new moves. I didn't like running the ropes. I didn't like getting blown up, which is like, they try to beat it out of you and see who really wants it.
Yeah.
I did not really want it.
Right. I mean, the process works then, right?
Totally.
They weeded you out. Yeah.
And my trainer was amazing. He's this guy, Pat Buck, who's now a producer in the WWE. He was the guy that eventually super kicked me at that wrestling show.
Yes.
So we're still friends to this day.
Took a great
awesome
bump
dude.
That night.
It was just like a wild experience. And after I realized it wasn't for me, I was super depressed. Because I was like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah.
I was applying for Barstool for so many years, and it felt like I wasn't getting through. I remember going to sleep some nights being like, I'm never going to get the fucking Barstool. It's so sad. And I started emailing Kevin Owens, who's in the WWE now, being like, dude, like what? I knew him from designing shirts. I was like, what do I do? Like, I really didn't like it. I'm so depressed. And he kind of led me into different directions. And he was like, there's different ways to get into the business. You could be a referee, you could design shirts, you could be a producer, you could do this.
Right.
Don't be depressed over this shit, dude. You're good. So he helped me out a lot there, and from there, I kept applying to Barstool.
And why did he take, like, why, out of everyone who's probably emailed him and tried to take an interest, was he not that big at that point? Was he, like, how did you jump out and actually get him to reply and take you seriously?
I think I was designing shirts for him at the time. He liked my designs, and he had 2 young kids.
And you just sent them, by the way?
Yeah, I would just send
them.
He
didn't say you're commissioned for these, it was just like,
totally.
Here you go.
I was drawing them with my finger on my iPad, just trying to, my thing was like, I want to be friends with these guys. Yeah. That was like all I wanted to do. I didn't want anything in return. It's like I want to be friends with these guys. I want to be in the mix. Like it seems awesome.
You said you wanted to get into the shows, right?
Totally.
I'll design you a shirt. Just give me a ticket to your show.
Get me a ticket to your show, and I will design you as many shirts as you'd like. And I designed him a few shirts, and I saw like his kids would be into like I think Monsters Inc. or something. So I drew a thing of him as like Sully and his kids as like Mike and Boo. And immediately he was kind of like appreciative of that.
Right.
So we got emailing back and forth, and now like we text almost every day. I feel like he was the last guy I went out with before the pandemic. We went to a Ranger game together, and then the pandemic hit like the next day. I remember saying to him like, "Yeah, they're saying WrestleMania might get canceled. Could you
Please
imagine?
Imagine that."
Yeah.